Welcome to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast, where we dive deep into raw, unfiltered journey of entrepreneurship, fitness, mental health, and building businesses from the ground up. I'm Eric Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, real estate developer, fitness enthusiast, dad, and husband.
And I'm Destiny Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, creative, brand strategist, and above all, mom and wife, bringing you real talk on what it takes to thrive as a business owner, especially when you're doing it alongside your partner. Here, we don't just focus on the wins. We dig deep into the struggles, the sacrifices, and the daily grind that it takes to make it all possible. So tune in, subscribe, and get ready to uncover the grit behind the grind.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast. We are super excited today because not do you just get me and Destiny, which are your regulars, but we have a really cool guest, Kale Goodman. And man, he's actually been a really cool mentor in my life and somebody that I've genuinely enjoyed getting to know. So I know for everybody out there, like you'll love and you'll find value from what he has to say. So what's up, Kale? How's it going?
What's up, guys? I'm so honored to be here. Honestly, I love that you guys are, putting all your goodness out in the world like you already do, but now you're doing it on a podcast platform. And I'm honored to be a part of it and be your first guest, man. Thank you.
We paid him to say all of those things. I'll send you a check next week, brother.
Whenever I think of the circle of friends that we have, and who interests me the most, and I just want to dive deep and pull back the curtains and just wonder what is it? What got you started? What's the hustle behind, Kale Goodman? It's you. I think we have a big group of kind of network, but every time I think of you, I'm like, you're so in depth with every conversation that we've always had with you. And it's really neat. You have a cool story. And it was one of the first ones that when me and Eric said, who can we bring on and kind of talk about behind the hustle? It was you popped in our head first. And so we're super excited to dive into that and just your entrepreneurial journey, kind of in a Cliff Note version of how you've gotten here. So introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. So, as you guys said, I'm Kale Goodman, and, I think the best description is just entrepreneur, for as far as the business stuff goes, I just have always had a thirst for growing business. I remember as a little kid, literally having, visions of being this businessman, getting on airplanes and going around the country. And some kids have the astronaut vision or the football player vision. And I had some of that stuff, but man, I always just had this businessman vision, and so I think it is just something that's been in me for a really long time. But, as I've gotten older and I have had a lot of successes and a lot of failures in business, I've realized it's definitely not my full identity, it is, especially now, yesterday I turned 42, I'm looking in the camera. I'm like, oh yeah, man, it's all showing up like crow's feet and everything. But, man, faith in God and our family and just, all of those things have just become so much more important to me. All I used to think about was business. And now I'm just like, man, there's just so much more important things out there, but it is such an important thing if you take the path as an entrepreneur to really be all in as well and really try and build your faith and build your family and all of that. But man, it is one of the greatest self-development journeys you'll ever go on as an entrepreneur, as being one.
So that was your vision when you started out. You was like, hey, I want to be a business person. And that was your goals and aspirations, you know what I mean? But where did that start at? What was your first hustle? What was your first kind of business venture, and how old were you?
Dude, I couldn't even tell you my age because I remember selling candy bars and penny candy, bags of penny candies and stuff, literally in first grade, second grade, you know what I mean? I was just loved being that resource. I love people coming to me hey, you got more of that, more of that candy, so
I used to have one of those, but it was not for a very positive thing in society, you know what I mean? So, but no, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, that was my first memory. That was my first memory of entrepreneurship too. I used to hustle cookies, and it was crazy. And so that was my gateway to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for sure. But what I think instilled that in me was we grew up in a very middle class neighborhood, and we were like the poorest family of the middle class neighborhood. Like, yes, I was bullied, and I'm so grateful for that. Like I still run into neighborhood kids around our tight knit community all the time, and a lot of them are doing great for themselves, and I've done great for myself. And it's like, you don't really like, have any animosity, like, oh, you guys bullied me or anything like that. Like, I have a lot of gratitude for it, but like, we were the poor family, and so, and there were like kids that weren't allowed to play at our house because we didn't belong to the same church or as active in it and things like that. And so, like, as a little kid, I just think I had something to prove, man. Like, like, hey, I'm not this, gum on the bottom of your shoe. I'm not going to be treated like that. Like, I'm going to be somebody, like I remember having those conversations even as a little kid. And then even as a teenager, I'll never forget when my really good friend, David, he passed away, really young, in his 30s. But when we were just 15, I walked in on some friends talking bad about me, like almost kind of like, like I was a nobody, or I was kind of a joke. And I remember being real upset about it. And I was driving home with them, and I was just like, screw those guys, man. Like, I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to drive nice cars, and I'm going to go on airplanes, and I'm going to do, you know what I mean? Like, cause back then when I was a kid, going on airplanes, having grass in your yard, having stairs in your home, like that was what rich people had, you know what I mean? And so like, I just remember just having this rant with him at like 15 years old, like, I'll show them I'm going to have a nice car, nicer than them when I'm 16, but I always just had that, even as in elementary school, just that treatment from other people. And then I also watched my parents really struggle financially, and I saw the type of toll that takes on a family. And so, it was hard. It was hard. Just like, so many people have it harder, you know what I mean? It's like not this, poor me story, but, so many people in our neighborhood, like we felt, we felt like we were the outcasts, and so it kind of instilled that we have something to prove and be successful kind of attitude. At least I did. So.
Yeah,
I
I
love
think
that.
back at those type of things, and man, I really draw from them as superpowers. You know what I mean? Because anybody that you look back and say, "Oh man, that dude's had a little bit of success in his life," or like, you know what I mean, they have something going for them. It's typically one of those stories where you had some type of fuel that motivated you and pushed you to go a little bit further, a little bit harder. Like you're doing 16-hour days when everybody, because you got that chip on your shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, and so like I know. For me, I have stories like that. And it's like, man, I look back and I'm like, thank you for that fuel, bro. Like, I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
It's a beautiful example. I was going to say, it's a beautiful example too. You had two roads that you could have took right there. You could have played victim. Sure. Or you could have let it fuel the fire. And I see that so much in entrepreneurs that we almost never, we're such high functioning people that like playing that victim or poor me is never an option. So it's all about mentality, I think, because in that moment you could have chosen to completely be like, and just play yourself down. But I think it just completely, like you said, that was probably a very pivotal moment for you, which is just super cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's give the audience a little bit of context. Like, tell us how we met. You know what I mean? Like, what business are you involved in right now? Like, what's business life and entrepreneurial life look like for you right now?
Yeah. Oh man, like we're in this full rebuild mode. You know what I mean? But we've, like how, I mean, obviously, from you guys, meeting you guys, like we had a podcast, and thankfully you guys, found that podcast and you listened to it and you came to the events that we put on and instantly I gravitated to you guys. And so, I mean, it's so many blessings that came from that. And I'm not a part of that podcast anymore, but, I was very motivated to start that podcast and start putting ourselves out there initially because I built our accounting company, alongside with our partners, but I was the guy to go get the business. And so when we kind of hit this place where it was like, okay, we only have these handful of referral partners that send us business to keep all of these people employed in our accounting business, from sales to operations and fulfillment and all that stuff. It was like, man, what if like just one of our bigger ones went out of business? Or what if, I don't know, just any catastrophe happens where it's like we lose half of this business, like we're fully dependent on other people. And so, man, like I had never listened to a podcast before. And like one day I was just like in the gym and I was like, I I got to start finding a way to like build our own security within the company and like build our own lead and marketing assets, and so that we can really secure, this business for these people, and at this time we're doing, $6-7 million a year in business. And so we're like, like this is a lot to lose, for a young new company. And then also it's a lot to lose for a lot of people that are there, bought in on our vision and our mission. And so, I start listening to these podcasts and I learn about guys like Gary Vee and Andy Frisella. And then I learn about Grant Cardone's throwing this biggest first 10X conference ever. And I go there, I take Kaylee with me, my wife, and, and I'm just looking for resources at this point in time. And man, I met all these people and marketers. They're doing great. They're generating their own leads online. They're all this stuff. And so I was going there with like a marketing initiative, like how can we create more for this company? And, I started meeting people, man, like Billy Gina's marketing was there. And, I talked to him about, man, where do I start? And like trying to create our own leads. And, and it just started compounding. And then one day I come back to the office and I'm like, hey man, I started contacting Gary Vee's office because we can start like hiring some of their athletes at Vayner Sports and things to promote for us, and I want to try these things, you guys, like, but I don't ever want to just sit around and wait for something bad to happen and then run out of money and disappoint all these people that are here. So like, like they have an event coming up. This is in 2017, and so I'm like, I want to go to, I just have a feeling we need to go. And, the partners like Trevor, Jeremy, JD, they were like, I want to go too. I'm like, let's all go. So I gather them all up. We fly out to Miami and we go to Gary Vee's event and we meet Gary Vee, and then we meet Gary Vee's sister. She becomes a client of us at Easier County. And we set up a business and, we meet her, we meet his brother and we end up going and seeing his brother in New York at a later time to go to another small business conference. And it just starts compounding, right? And then we start getting into more of these mastermind groups and like the Apex one and the and we keep hearing like start a podcast. And so, and Trev was with me there at that time and I was like, man, we need to start a podcast. And he was like, yeah, man, like what would we talk about? And I'm like, I don't know, we'll just figure it out as we go, and that's really what entrepreneurship is, right? Like you are freaking winging it until you're not, man. You're just like testing stuff and figuring out what works. And, and I got to, like, we were trying to do this all under Easier Counting's name, to be honest with you. And we'd gotten our Instagram taken away and like, we just kept chasing these, facing these challenges. And one day Trev was like, man, rather than trying to like keep doing this under Easier Accounting where people aren't that attracted to an accounting company, like maybe we just cast a bigger net, like call it Real Business Owners, right? And I was like, dude, there's no way that name is available. He's like, it is. I looked it up. I'm like, dude, why are we even talking about it? Go swoop that name, dude. That's perfect. And so he did. He jumped in, bought the domain name, got the Instagram handle, all that. And then we just started doing it, man. Like we did exactly what you guys are doing, where you're like, hey, let's do our first couple episodes by ourselves. Let's, tell our story, and then let's get guests in here and let's talk to real entrepreneurs that are like in the weeds, man. Not, people that people can resonate with. And so, and so we did, man. And that's all I did for a while was just go out and try and attract and talk to and connect with people that had a good story to tell and people that could send us business and still be referral partners and, could be a resource for us and helping us build our marketing. And it's just like, all of a sudden I'm just like, dude, the secret to entrepreneurship is putting yourself out into the world. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was really, that's kind of really how it all started. And then boom, we're throwing our own events and we're meeting guys like you and gals like you. So, so that was a crazy journey, man. And I'm not doing that right now. 'Cause like, the business, like you guys know, we jumped into grit and grind and it was like, man, all I want to do is just focus on that. And now I'm split because I'm like, I'm all over the place because Easier Accounting's like, come back in. We need to grow again. And that's one thing that I've just realized about myself is like, I never paid attention to it or like journaled it or wrote down the steps that I do and until I wrote a book. But it's like, you know what? I just have this ability probably from my upbringing. The story I already shares, like, I'm a producer, like I find opportunity, I create opportunity, and I like to go produce, and so they need me back in here. And so now I'm like head down, trying a bunch of new stuff again, so.
There's so much to unpack there. I absolutely love though, and I see the same characteristics in myself as I see in you. And we're very strategic thinkers. Like you said, you were bringing in multiple, 6-7 figures. Like you could have been just sat back, but no, you're like, what can I do to ensure? Like we never settle.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is like you never settle. Nothing's ever good enough, and I absolutely love that because if you would have settled, think of the relationships, think of the people in the lives that you've changed. You've changed our life. We've changed your life. We wouldn't have just took those chances, and so that's really neat to be able to see that in you as well. I think it's just a
Yeah.
characteristic that we all have, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Or do you find yourself like a big part of what you're chasing is that like security? You're like, man, I want to get to a point where it's like, like it's not gonna all fall apart. You know what I mean? Like you got, you know what I mean? Like, or
For
do
There
you
me,
feel
is.
like,
I think, basically I always want what I don't have. You know what I mean? So it's like
Mhm.
right now, it's like that beach house, or it's like, hey, I want recurring revenue of 6 figures a month, but as soon as I get it, I want something else. So honestly, I have to remind myself almost on a daily basis to say, hey, enjoy the moment, enjoy what I'm doing now, enjoy what I'm building, because like it's like a rabbit hole, bro. Like I can have one thought and that could just take me somewhere completely opposite of what I'm trying to do or accomplish. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
100%, 100%. I've realized this about myself later, but I'm like, man, I've always been looking for this destination, which is like a really secure destination, like, you know,
Mhm.
um, you know, tens of millions of dollars in the bank and exiting a company so my family never has to worry again. And it's like if I've learned anything from entrepreneurship, man, is like the destination does keep getting further and out, and so I totally agree. Like I do that too, man, where I'm like I have to really force myself to be in the moment and not stay in the future thinking all the time. But I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I'm just like a future thinker and I'm always chasing that security or those goals as well.
Well,
So
it's
And
a
it's
balancing act,
hard.
right? You know what I mean? Like you got to have those goals and you got to have ambitions. And, if you don't, then it's like, why am I getting up today? Like, why am I doing this? I want to unpack a little bit because I definitely resonate with building your accounting firm. I know a little bit of your backstory, right? But what I know of it is you didn't get in it because you was a CPA, right? And we didn't start a coffee business because my grandmother said that I make great coffee. Like it was a business piece. Like there was a strategy to it. So like unpack that a little bit. Like what was the start when you said, hey, I'm going all in on an accounting firm without an accounting degree? Like what was the thought process there?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, my dad he's a contractor and he was self-employed, and I didn't pick accounting. Like I literally feel like God picked accounting for me. You know what I mean? Because something needed to change for entrepreneurs, especially um early on entrepreneurs, and so I worked in a call center just as a sales guy at 18 years old. I'm a brand new dad. I'm a teen dad, and I'm just like trying to make a paycheck and feed my family. And this guy comes in and he says, hey, this is how it works if you become 1099 and self-employed. And he breaks down this whole pitch on like how self-employed income works versus W-2 income works. And I had so many questions because I watched my dad as a self-employed guy, literally self-implode, and he was such a hard worker, and I learned so much from my dad, and I'm so grateful for him. And but man, I watched this looming financial fight happen in our household my entire life, like long as I can remember. And it was always about the IRS. The IRS is coming because they get the letters in the mail. And back then, it was like, they were a little more ruthless than they are now. They still, I feel like, are ruthless in some ways. But man, it got to a point where my dad just didn't know what to do. He wasn't set up properly. I didn't know that back then. I'm just a kid hearing these fights in the household about money and taxes and getting behind on taxes. And one day, man, my dad finished this big apartment complex up in Salt Lake. I'm just a teenager, like 15. I helped him on that job. And we come home from Salt Lake City to St. George, Utah. It's like 4 hour drive. My dad is so excited because he finally has enough money from finishing this big job to pay his people, put money in the bank, pay some of those taxes, get caught up on bills. He puts that money in the bank account, and it's like some $50,000 check. We're talking in the 90s. Like this is a lot of money, and boom, it's like he goes after the weekend, puts it in on Friday, goes in on Monday to start paying bills, and there's no money there. IRS tax levy. Boom, took it all out. And it's like, hey, they were done asking, they were done talking, they started taking his money. And then my mom's like, a stay-at-home mom, she ends up going and getting a job at, Albertson's grocery store, and a couple months into there, garnish her paychecks. And so now I'm watching my dad like work for only cash under the table. People can't even pay him in check anymore, or credit card. Like he couldn't put money in the bank, or it's gonna be gone. So we're now like, we went from like being in this middle class, lower in the middle class, to like, oh, like dang near poverty, you know what I mean? And so now the fights get even worse. And, and I just watched this happen to the point where they had to file bankruptcy. They had to do settlements with the IRS. They got liens on our home. Like if we ever sold the home, it's going to go straight to the IRS. And I watched him even after all that, literally for another 30 years, like constantly work on this issue that just destroyed him. And it's like, I didn't know that until I ended up talking to this person that came and talked to us. And I just wanted to learn what he was talking about. And then I learned a little bit more about it. And he recruits me to come be a sales guy at that accounting firm. And so just by being in sales at an accounting firm, I learned all these things. And I learned like, wow, it wasn't really like the IRS that ruined our life. It was my dad's just lack of knowledge of what to do with the finances, And so I have this backstory, and then I get into the accounting and I fall in love with it because now I'm talking to all these other business owners that are just like my dad. They don't know where they're going, what they're doing, what type of LLC to set up or corporation. And, and it's like, like I just got a lot out of helping those people and obviously making great money as a sales guy. And then, man, like after doing my own little side hustle for a little while and going all in on that, it was just like the opportunity came up, like, like, hey, let's get some alliances and some accountants, and like, let's do that again. Like I was really good at that and I love doing it. And so, all of a sudden we had our first accounting company, which was with old partners. And we scaled that to an 8-figure business. We were doing a little over $10 million a year. And then some of those partners wanted to go off and do different things, and we kind of all split up, and then we started Easier Accounting shortly after that. But man, it was just like, it's just something I still love to this day, like, my wife will tell me like, oh, who was that on the phone? Like, you seemed excited. You seemed happier than I've seen you lately. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a newer business owner, and they had all these questions. They didn't know where to start. And it's like, there's something about the newer business owner that lights me up. And so even now as an accounting firm, like, our company's evolved where they're always chasing these high-end clients because there's so much security and value in that. But I still love helping the newer entrepreneurs. So we still have that whole side of the company as well. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. It's like this big, long, story, still back to childhood, but man, money is such an important thing, and it's so important to learn about it and use it wisely and be a good steward of your money. And, because man, the ups and downs of life is always so uncertain. And it's like, if you don't start right, those downs could be a lot harsher. And so I love helping people get started on the right foot with that stuff.
I think for so long, like, you don't talk about money. Like, it's not a thing that you're supposed to talk about,
Yeah.
And I think that the tides are changing now. There's a lot more vulnerability and transparency. I think because we're just a different generation. We've seen, and those actions have impacted us so much that we're trying to solve those problems. I mean, for us, the catalyst is coffee, but really it's just freedom to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do, with whoever you want to do it with, and not have a locked in 9 to 5. And so I can totally see where we are all servants by heart. Every entrepreneur I know, we just love to serve in different forms and different ways. And we love to solve problems. We're just creative like that. Our brain just likes to figure out, how can we fix this? Rather it's, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's the person, trying to fix it and you can't fix them. But that's really neat that you created something out of that. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, it is something. I do have a lot of, I'm, proud of myself for a lot of things that I've done. Just, man, I wasn't even able to finish high school like most kids because I had a child. Like, I was a rebel, and so, I had a child in high school, and I'm like, oh well, I got to go down this road, and I found sales, and then I found accounting, and it's just crazy, how it all unfolds, but at the end of the day, it is all just about serving people. And as you evolve as a human being, it's like you become more wise. You learn that, and it's less about, survival or selfishness, and it is about serving for sure.
How long have you been doing business for yourself? Like, how many years?
I started in 2006.
Okay. So almost 20 years. We're
Yeah.
going on 20 years, right? So as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, like what does the evolution look like? I mean, first few years, everyone tells you like be prepared to lose money, you're going to grind, maybe break even if you're lucky, and then you start to evolve. Like you start to learn how to build systems and processes for most people that I've seen, and then they go open up more businesses. But for you, what did that journey look like? Over the 20 years, like where are you at?
So I was actually really fortunate to be able to start off with a very, um, I'd say a decent, out of the gate because of the sales background, right? I mean, I never thought I'd be a good salesman, and the more time I spent on the phone with people, I mean, the results spoke for themselves. And so when we decided to launch our first business, it was like, okay, well, I mean, I was still working my sales job, and so, but I knew I was good at talking to people and getting on the phones and getting people, in onboarded into our program. And so, I just do it after hours, man. And then it got to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm not at the job anymore. I'm all in on this. And I still don't think I'm the greatest at systems and processes, but I know I can go find people and sell people on coming in and helping me on that. You know what I mean? And that's really what it is. Like I got off to a good start, and because I knew the value of saving money, and not overspending, I was able to get sales in the door, pay myself and all the other expenses as minimally as possible. And I remember having a conversation with Jeremy, my very first partner, and he asked me like, dude, what do you think the difference is between a lot of these startups around town that go out of business so quick? And I was like, man, I just think they live beyond their means. Like, let's just pay ourselves very minimally commissions and base $500 a week until we have $100,000 in the bank, and then once we know we have $100,000 in the bank, then we can bring people on and help us. And that's exactly what we did, and that's kind of still the play that we run to this day. I've never like been able to just go get a business loan or anything like that. And so, and so that's where I stay, man. I bring people in. I'm very resourceful. I find people to come in and help me with systems and processes and accounting and, all these things, but it gives me the ability to, be out in the world, selling and finding resources to help things continue to evolve, and so that's been my play, and that's working for me. So I do always encourage people especially when they're younger and they're younger in business, like, dude, like you were saying, putting in the reps earlier, off camera, like put in the reps on sales, man, because that's going to be what gives you the most, a fire, fuel to the fire, you know what I mean? To be able to bring the resources in and help you with the things that that you're not an expert in. So.
Yeah, for me, I think I've looked back on it and say, when I was getting started, I felt like I needed to know and learn everything to be successful. And the hack that I've learned now after being in business for a few years is, hey, I don't have to know everything. What I need to do is I need to be a good organization builder, right? Like I need to go build teams out, and they all have specialties and operate and have their gifts and talents that they bring. And then that's how you create a successful organization, but not by doing it all yourself. I mean, that only lasts so long. You'll get burnt out that way.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
it's a mindset shift, but that's a really good point. And I think that a lot of people need to hear that, because we only know what we know, right? And when you don't know, it's a little scary and it's stressful, and it's like, man, and typically you listen to people who haven't went and built things before, you know what I mean? And it's fear that holds them back, and the unknown, especially, but at the end of the day, you just bring talent to you, and you've always been really good communicator. And I've seen that from you. And it's like, man, look, I just need to tell them my vision, explain it, break it down, because a lot of people, they're not visionaries. I mean, if you're not Destiny on my team, bro, like I need a picture and talk to me like a third grader, So it's kind of like, all right, show me the vision and then let me buy into it.
Yeah, you guys are an amazing power couple and partnership, because you do have such a strong visionary and then also team builder and doer on your team. And I see that, and I see that just in the energy and the team that you've built with Grit and Grind, you know what I mean? And being in the chats and like how lit up people are about what they're building. And that comes from you guys being able to sell that vision. The greatest CEOs and company builders and organization builders in the world are always come down to being able to sell the vision the most effectively and create that buy-in to be able to build a team. And you guys like have these perfect, you know, I don't know what the word is, but like that kind of like complement each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These skills that complement each other and what you're building. And you know, I mean, building a team is what it's all about. And you got to sell them a vision. And then, you know, man, I mean, what do you think that the most effective thing is as being a team builder for you guys to continue to like get the most out of them to continue to bring this vision to life for not only you but for them? Like, what is that you guys think you do really well?
I think that we are an example. We walk out what we talk. We never
Yeah.
ask anyone for something that we're not willing to roll up our sleeves or be strategic and say, okay, I really want my team to grow mentally. What are some things that we can do? So maybe we might do the step challenge or little thing. Like we're very much like I don't ask anyone to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself that they haven't seen me done in the last, 6 months, a year or something like that.
Yeah. And here's another thing is you think about how the timeline has played out. And we really went all in on business right after COVID. So we are these type of people. Like we genuinely have been through enough darkness in our lifetime that we really want to put out light. We want to put out a positive vibe. We want to lead by example. We want to give other people purpose in life. And so living that type of lifestyle out and you combine those with the gifts that we have. And that is basically like you just identified. I know that I'm a doer. I'm gonna get the dang thing done. Destiny, she's a very good visionary. But then right after COVID, everybody felt like a number. They was inside of an organization and it's like, man, my job don't care about me. And like, I'm tired of working for the man. And then me and Destiny come in with these kind of like gifts and talents to really grow something, but we create this organization that is focused on making sure that people around us are valued and felt that way and they have a voice, and we give a lot of the pie away when it comes to the financial piece. And it's just like genuinely wanting everyone to win. It's like I played dodgeball as a kid and you got that kid that's sitting over there on the sideline and nobody picked him. I wanted that person on my team. You know what I mean? Like I wanted that dude to feel like what I felt. Like I wanted him to be excited. So now I create this organization that has all of these things that I'm bringing to the table. And I mean, it's hard to talk about it sometimes, but it's been a wrecking ball, bro. Like there's no stopping. It's like a snowball going down the hill and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So
Guys, and that's exactly what I wanted to bring out, because by asking that question is because you guys are doing, and I see it, I see what you're doing from being involved with Grit and Grind, and you guys do exactly what has been the number one most important thing in creating some success for others and myself. And you said it by, hey, I want to pick the guy over there that was last picked, and bring him up. It's like you have the ability to see gifts in people and believe in them. And like, dude, that is literally, if there is no other message on this podcast or that I ever even put out there as far as what I have been able to achieve in the world, is like, man, I've never achieved anything alone. You know what I mean? Like, I've just been like going and then seeing people that have a gift and need something, and I'm like, come do this with us. I believe in you. I see you're good at this. I see you're good at that. And I see you guys do that as well with your staff and your franchisees and like just what you guys are creating. And so, as we've talked today, I mean, that's why I wanted to ask you that question on building your team, what you guys think the most important thing is, because I see you doing it and you hit on it. It's like, you just believe in people, you just believe in people, because nobody can build an organization alone, man. And unless you're willing to bring people in and actually believe in them and, bring the
I
best
love it. I remember when we were at the mastermind and we both got the same word. Do you remember that? Pathfinders, bro. And it kind of aligned a lot like that. And I don't know, we officially became like blood brothers then, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, we are all in. But that was really cool. But it was almost, it gave me a word to identify who I am as a character. You know what I mean? And that is really providing opportunity for other, because that's what brings me joy. That's what brings me purpose. And I see the same thing in you. And I think if we continue to live a life like that, and we just want to add value to other people's lives, in just by default, that will add value to our lives. You know what I mean? Our businesses, the thing that we touch. So super
True,
grateful
man.
for that. trait.
Everybody has really got greatness in them, and it's like, but they don't. Sometimes they get lost, man. They don't see it themselves. I know I've been through that even in recent times, and it's like, sometimes you just need someone to believe in you. And so if you can be that person, believe in people, in your team, like, man, it's amazing. It is incredible how far you can go when a team feels like you believe in them, and now they start believing in themselves, and it's like now they're bought on Destiny's vision, and it's like, man, it makes you unstoppable by having that one gift of just being able to believe in people.
Yeah. So tell us, you got the podcast, Easier Money podcast, right? For all of our listeners, just a heads up. I don't remember who it was, on your team. They talked about the life insurance policy as an asset. This was a few months ago. Des, what did we officially do the other day? We followed it up.
Yeah, I got life insurance. It was a traumatic experience because I had to give blood and I almost passed out, but hopefully it'll be worth it one day.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
I don't sell life insurance, man, but I like to talk about these resources for people,
Mhm.
well, that was my point. Basically the Easier Money podcast, like it's short, digestible. Like if you're on a run or you're just trying to look for a couple little nuggets, how to level up. And honestly, like what is the market doing? Like, hey, where's people putting their money? Like what's a good investment? Like you just like Destiny talked earlier, like there is a stigma around our generation to where it was not a good thing to talk about money, but you guys are kind of talking about it and giving away. Here's what I've learned is people like we who want to add value to other people's lives, we find vehicles to do that. Your podcast, our free Facebook group. I mean, it's literally not being gatekeepers on information that we have. It's why we're sitting here having this conversation right now. Hopefully somebody takes a small nugget and it can enrich their life through listening to it. But that, whoever's on your team that did the one about the life insurance, tell them thank you,
Yeah.
So we went, it was the kick in the butt that I needed to go and get that piece set up. So,
that's good. Did you guys call Craig or somebody else?
Yeah, I think we used Liberty Mutual. No, I'm not sure. I can't remember honestly who we did.
Yeah.
We call so many people.
Yeah, he's just someone I know does that through the network. But even my son, man, he's 23 now, but for 2 years he's already had his cash value life insurance policy building since he was 21.
It was Caden, wasn't it? It was him talking about it.
Yeah. I pushed him to do that, and I pushed him to get because while you're young, I said, get your cash value life insurance policy set up. And that was the first thing. And then I want you to get some money market funds put together, even just $200 a month. At your age, by the time you're 40, man, it's going to be worth 7 figures. You just got to pay it like your cell phone bill. It's like, I'll pay that bill before I pay my cell phone bill, to be honest with you, because there's you want to make sure you set yourself up to have some freedoms financially. So
yeah, and it's all just like thinking about the future. And the hack that I've learned is like get them to pull it out of my check, or go ahead and pay for it before I allocate any money for anything else, because my future is that important, right? And if you don't see it, like it's gone as soon as you get it, it's almost like you don't like really. It doesn't hurt, it sting that bad, right?
Yeah.
So definitely a cool hack. Well, cool, man. Thank you for just jumping on here with us and just navigating this new water and this new adventure. We are greatly humbled and appreciative of it. Anybody out there that's interested in, getting their taxes done, I know it's the end of the season. So like Easier Accountant's been hooking us up, always been great people. Like your network is your net worth, honestly. And, you reach out to people that you trust, know, and like, and that's who you do business with. And I'm telling you right now, Kale is somebody that we vouch for. We vouch for him so much, like he's a part of our organization, the Grit and Grind brand, right? Because energy attracts energy, and the energy that we're talking about is genuinely just trying to do business through helping others, right? So super glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, man. Pleasure is all mine, dude. I haven't actually been a guest on a podcast in a while, so it's fun to kind of dig into this story. It felt like I haven't done that in a while, but man, it's seriously, pleasure's all mine. I appreciate you guys so much.
Awesome.
We'll have to bring you back and actually talk about Grit and Grind one day, but we'll say that for round 2.
Can't wait.
Cool. All right, Kale. Appreciate it, brother.
Dude, appreciate you guys, man.